Good morning, everybody. Really glad you're here. Welcome to today's session with the Data and Marketing Association. I'm Dan O'Reilly, CEO of Centralise. Just some housekeeping. If you lose sound from the speakers, please let the DMA know in the questions box, and they'll notify the speaker to adjust the microphone. And if you have any questions, of course, please do write them in the questions box, and we'll try to get to them in the Q&A. Now, we've put three stats on the cover slide deliberately. 900 billion is the annual cost of dirty data to UK businesses. 12% is the average revenue lost to inaccurate data. 22% of customers' records in a typical UK database are wrong right now. Not old, not archived, active records, just wrong. Those aren't abstract numbers. They are what's sitting beneath the AI tools, the automation platforms, and the personalization strategies that most organizations in this room are currently investing in. And today, we're going to talk about what to do about it. Here's what we're going to cover today, and who's covering it. The speaker's name is on every agenda item, so you know what to expect. Mary is going to open. She'll talk us through why automation investments underdeliver, what bad data actually costs organizations, a live diagnostic you can run on your own setup, and what data readiness means in practice, and our automation maturity model. I'll pick up the AI argument, walk through our practical framework, and take you into HubSpot, showing you how the platform enables everything we've been talking about, including a couple of features most people won't have seen. Jeremy will then bring it to life with a couple of client case studies, and then hand it over to our guest, Ji-Hei Chang from Comparative Market, who has an amazing case study to show us all. Again, questions in the chat throughout. We'll hold them and come back to them at the end. It's probably best that I intro the team and put some faces to names. As mentioned, I'm Dan, and I'm joined by Mari, who leads our marketing. She lives with the consequences of data quality every single day, which makes her the best person in the room to open on why the problem is real. We also have Jeremy, who heads up growth and sales and works with new clients on their current state before any implementation begins. He sees data maturity firsthand, the good, the bad, and the painful. And of course, Ji-Hei Chang from Comparative Market, Senior Manager of Data Planning and Performance, the person behind some of the most effective data-led marketing in the UK. And she'll be sharing the AutoSergei story later, one of the best examples you'll see of AI working exactly as it should because the data was ready for it. Now, before we get into today's content, a quick word on who Centralise is. We're a revenue infrastructure partner for mid-market B2B businesses. We work with heads of revenue, marketing, and operations who know their commercial systems aren't working the way their businesses need them to. We don't just implement, we design foundations, the data, the structure, governance, so that revenue and marketing teams have the visibility and trust they need to grow predictably. And with over 250 revenue systems designed and delivered, we know what good looks like. We use HubSpot as the engine to do that. And we're incredibly proud to be in the top 1% HubSpot partners globally. But we always lead with the business problem, not the platform. The principles we're sharing today aren't HubSpot specific. CRM failure looks the same whether you're on Salesforce, Dynamics, or whatever your poison is. If your data isn't clean, structured, and trusted by the people using it, the platform doesn't matter. Okay, let's get into it. I'm going to pass it over to Mari.
Thanks, Dan. So to get us going, I'm going to start with a question. If you've invested in a marketing automation platform, a CRM, or an AI tool, drop a yes in the chat. I'm sure most of you have. Yeah. Now, how many of you would say those investments are fully delivering what was promised when you signed the contract? That one's probably a harder yes to give. I've been in marketing long enough to know that question makes people really uncomfortable, because most people in the room like this have watched a technology investment underperform and have been left wondering what went wrong. The answer almost always, every time, is the same. It's not the platform, it's not the team, it's almost always the data. So here are 3 UK specific numbers. The Software Bureau puts the annual cost of dirty data to UK businesses at £900 billion, which is an insane number. Experience shows 12% of revenue is lost on average due to inaccurate data, and 22% of customer records in the average UK database are inaccurate right now. That's actual active records that are just completely wrong. If 22% of your contacts are wrong, 1 in 5 automations you'll fire is hitting the wrong person. It's bouncing or triggering on a record you just can't trust. That's not a technology failure, that is a data failure. The warning at the bottom of this slide is the core message of today. Without clean, structured, and usable data, even the most advanced AI and automation tools will fall short. So let me show you what that actually costs. Okay, three more numbers. 88% of UK companies say inaccurate data directly impacts their bottom line. 25 to 30% of B2B contact data decays into inaccuracy every single year. If you're not actively maintaining your database, you will lose a quarter of its accuracy every 12 months through time alone. And 73% of British businesses say that data governance is the cornerstone to better AI. These are board level numbers. They're not a CRM problem or a marketing ops problem. They are a fundamental business performance problem. But it's the bottom half of this slide I really want you to sit with. The financial cost is measurable. The trust cost compounds silently, and that's what does the long-term damage. I wondered if any of you had heard of the 1-10-100 rule, or the cost of quality, cost of data rule. It's a principle in data quality management that describes how exponentially more expensive it becomes to fix an error the later they're caught in the process. So here's how it would play out. Data becomes unreliable. Sales reps start building their own spreadsheets outside the CRM, not because they're awkward, but because they can't trust the system. Marketing can't trust their exports either. Every campaign needs manual verification before it gets out. That's hours added, speed lost, and then CRM adoption drops. The system designed to help becomes something people are actively working around. And then leadership loses visibility entirely, meaning forecasting becomes guesswork and decisions are built on gut instinct, not data-led signals. That is the trust spiral. It's invisible until it's really, really expensive to unwind. And with the 1-10-100 rule in mind, it costs roughly £1 to prevent an error from entering a system in the first place. If the error slips through and is caught somewhere mid-flow, i.e. during a data pipeline, for example, it now costs £10 to fix. And if that bad data reaches the end of the process, a strategic decision, a customer-facing report, whatever, the cost explodes to £100. Now, you're dealing with damaged trust. A rework of decisions have already been made, etc. And the numbers are obviously illustrative ratios, not literal pound amounts. But in reality, the multipliers can be far worse. The organizations that avoid falling down the trust spiral treat data quality as a continuous discipline, not just a one-off project. A few more questions. Answer honestly, yes or no, or unsure. You can keep a mental tally or feel free to share in the chat. So, can you pull a reliable report of your active pipeline by segment in under 5 minutes? Not export it, tidy it and send it, but actually pull it right now in 5 minutes and trust the data that's in it. Do you know what percentage of your CRM contacts have been engaged in the last 90 days? Could you run a personalized nurture campaign today without manually cleaning it first? When a deal closes, does that automatically update your marketing suppression list, or does someone have to do it? And lastly, do you have a single agreed definition of a qualified lead enforced in your CRM, not written in a document somewhere, like actually enforced within the system? The rule of thumb here is that more than two no's or unsure answers means you probably have a data readiness problem, not a tech problem, not a headcount problem, a data readiness problem, and a solvable one. So What are we actually solving? Data readiness has 4 components that need to work consistently for success. Most organizations have some, but very few have all 4 working consistently. First things first, they need to be clean. No duplicates or standardized fields, no ghost records or junk entries polluting your segments. We would start by advising you to run a deduplication report. Most teams find that 15 to 30% overlap. And if you haven't done this recently, after this call, that's your first action. The next is structured. Organize so that your CRM, automation tools, and reporting can read and act on it without manual intervention. Can your CRM filter by industry, deal stage, and engagement level in a single view right now? If the answer involves Excel, you have a structure problem. Then we move on to accessible. The right people and systems can reach the data they need without a developer, a data team, or a manual export. How long does it take your marketing team to pull a campaign-ready list? If it's hours, that means accessibility is your bottleneck. And then lastly, usable. The most important and probably the hardest. Is it reliable enough that you'd stake a business decision or an automated customer journey on it? The question is, do your teams actually trust the data, or do they have to verify it manually before acting? If they're verifying it, you have your answer. Most organizations, in our experience, can tick 2 of these. Getting all 4 working is what unlocks the automation, the personalization, and the AI. So ask yourself, where does your organization sit on that journey? Which brings us to this slide. Where are you on your journey? There are 4 stages: manual, basic, connected, and intelligent. Stage 1 is manual. Your data lives in a spreadsheet and inboxes. Every report is a manual exercise. Nothing is connected. Nothing is automated. The CRM is there, if there is one, is a filing cabinet. We find this a lot with the organizations that we work with, and it's a lot more common than people like to admit. Stage 2 is basic. Some automation exists. Welcome emails are firing. There are deal stage updates, but nothing is joined up end to end. Automation exists in pockets, not system-wide, and the most orgs badge there is there for a reason, as this is where the majority of organizations actually are, even if they believe that they're further along. Then we have stage 3, connected, a single source of truth across systems. Behavior triggers real-time responses. Personalization at scale becomes possible. Sales and marketing share one contact record. This here is the target state before you scale AI. And then there is stage 4. Stage 4 is intelligent. AI operating on clean, connected data, predictive scoring that genuinely predicts, dynamic segmentation in real time, revenue forecasting you can actually defend in a boardroom or in front of leadership, If you want to, drop your stage number in the chat, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Obviously, there's no wrong answers. This is a diagnosis, not a competition. But stage 3 is the precondition for any serious AI conversation. You cannot skip steps. So I will hand over to Dan for the AI argument.
Thanks, Mary. I want to be direct about this because there's a hell of a lot of optimistic AI messaging out there that obscures it. AI does not fix a data problem. It amplifies one in most cases. But if we take a look at the left, let's talk about if your data is not ready. Think of a world where AI segments don't reflect your real audience. Personalization sends out the wrong message to the wrong person. Predictive scoring is built on incomplete signals and useless. And automation actually scales your mistakes rather than your wins. And the stat here is actually from the IBM Institute for Business Value. 49% of executives already cite that their data inaccuracy is their primary AI barrier. Nearly half right now. And I would say that's probably understated. Now, if we think about a world where your data is ready, let's move over to the right. Imagine a world where your predictive lead scoring actually predicts behavior. It'd be crazy, right? Personalization at scale feels relevant and not generic. Dynamic segmentation updates in real time without anybody touching it. and you actually have revenue forecasting that you can defend and stand over. At that point, AI becomes a natural next chapter, not a leap of faith, but a logical progression from the foundations that you've already built. I think the question today most organizations need to ask themselves is not which AI tool should we buy next. It's whether our data is ready for it. So let's talk about what you should actually do about it. We have a framework that spans across 4 steps. So let's take a quick look at it. Don't skip these steps. The sequence matters, and each one will unlock the next. So start off by pulling an audit. Pull a list of your contacts this week. Again, literally this week. Count the missing emails, the unassigned companies, the bad associations, the records with 0 engagement in the last 12 months. Remember, Mari mentioned, most teams find between 25 and 30% of records are degraded. So you can't fix what you cannot see. Secondly, you then need to centralize. Create one system of record. Every data source, website, event, sales, billing should all be flowing through this. Now, I'm not saying you need to go out and buy a new system, but what you can do is create a map. So map every source currently feeding your CRM and the ones that aren't. Just map it. You'll immediately see what data is being entered twice, where data is being siloed in systems that aren't connected, or where records literally just diverge. The third step is enrich. So once you have clean, centralized data, layer in the good stuff. Think firmographics, intent signals, conversational intelligence, but make sure it's automatic, not manual. Clean data is the floor. Enriched data is what makes segmentation and personalization actually work. So your action is, once we have it mapped and we understand what it looks like, identify the top 3 missing data fields that would move the needle exponentially for you. And then lastly, govern. The one that makes everything else stick. Mandatory fields, validation rules, defined ownership, and documented standards. Without governance, quality degrades again, and you're just cleaning a leaky bucket. The single most important action is name one person responsible for data quality. Doesn't have to be a committee, just one person. Now, this might feel like a hell of a lot of work, and honestly it is. That's why we use HubSpot as our engine to make this easier to manage. And we're just going to take a quick look as to how that helps. Now, I don't want this to be a heavy sales pitch as to everybody move to HubSpot. That's not what today is about. But HubSpot has made Centralise's life incredibly easier in enabling us to use this with our customers. It's not just a CRM or a marketing automation platform, as we all may know and love it from the beginning. It's a platform now that can enhance every layer of the data strategy that we've just described. So let's take a quick look at a couple of those different, I suppose, features or tools that we use today. So contact deduplication. Again, imagine a world where we just had one contact that represented that one person. But this can be managed automatically via the Data Quality Center. HubSpot literally identifies and merges duplicate records. No more 5 versions of the same contact across 5 tools, just one single source of truth. Property validation. HubSpot easily, and easily being the word there, allows us to enforce mandatory fields and input formats at the point of entry. So let's stop that bad data before it even gets in, not after it's already corrupted our segments. Then we think about data-triggered workflows. So when I speak to a lot of marketers, they think workflow, let's send multiple emails out, but it doesn't have to just be that. Workflows can actually work for you to ensure that your data is trustworthy. Your deals go to close 1. A workflow automatically updates your lifecycle stage. A contact hits that 90-day engagement threshold. The lead score adjusts in real time. Workflows allow you to make the system work for you and your data strategy rather than it being a burden to you. And then lastly, the unsung hero is a unified report. Sales, marketing, service, all that data in one single dashboard. No more exporting, no reconciling, and more importantly, no more Friday afternoon arguments as to whose numbers are right. That's the foundation. But there's actually a couple of areas that HubSpot has gone a little bit further to make our lives easier and hopefully some of your lives easier. And we're going to take a quick look at those. So this is the data agent. Again, happy to demo this to anybody, but this doesn't allow videos on this slide. So let's just talk to it today. HubSpot's data agent literally monitors continuously in the background, surfacing data quality issues that may be damaging your campaign. It does four things that, well, it does a hell of a lot more than four, but four things that most teams spend hours doing manually. It automates anomaly detection. So it will flag sudden drops in data completedness or unusual field patterns. It will assign data health scores to your contacts, companies, and we can even prioritize that by revenue impact. It allows you to use natural language queries to ask your CRM questions in plain English. You know, like show me all of our contacts that are missing a phone number that has an active deal on it, which used to take, you know, multiple queries, multiple Excel sheets, where it now is literally like talking to a companion. And then lastly, suggested remediation. So it doesn't just flag problems, it creates solutions as well. And it will say, hey, this is what I think the fix might be. Can I execute this with your approval? Think things like time zones or geographies or even simple things like capitalization on first name, last name. All of these things layer and they become something that's just happening daily, you know, hourly, rather than it being a big shift every quarter or half year when we have to sit down for a week and painfully try and tidy up our data. It becomes continuous and automated discipline, which is exactly what governance requires. We also have something called smart properties in HubSpot, which are incredibly useful in terms of understanding context rather than just storing values. So conditional logic will mean that we can make fields appear to the right team or the right person at the right time and hide unnecessary fields or make them mandatory when we need them to be. You capture the right context without overwhelming people with irrelevant fields. Calculated properties allow us to derive values automatically. You know, think days since last activity, engagement score, deal velocity. No more manual updates or Excel formulas that we need to try and pull to create some data within our system. We also have the AI-assisted enrichment, which uses HubSpot models to suggest and populate missing properties and values based on what it knows about a company or contact. So we're going to have fewer gaps, less manual research, but more importantly, hyper-personalization. We can go deep on our personas, we can go deep on our contacts to make sure when we are personalizing our campaigns, it hits and pushes through all of that noise that's out there today. And then lastly, signals and enrichment. Because we're all battling for relevance these days and breaking through noise, having those signals and enriched data in HubSpot creates a, I suppose, platform where you can cut through that noise incredibly easy. So we can pull things like buy-in signals through your website patterns or your pricing page or demo requests, email sequences, product usage spikes. All of these different signals can flow through the platform and become, I suppose, a tool for your team rather than a task. And that's something we always say to our customers. It's like, we don't want CRM to be a task. It needs to be a tool to help people do their best work. When we then layer in things like firmographics, LinkedIn data, intent signals from Bombard or G2, your CRM really becomes a tool that's going to help all of your teams cut through any of that noise. And there's no weekly CSV exports or imports. What this unlocks is the real prize. Segments that update in real time, personalization without manual list work, lead scores that actually reflect intent, and sales alerts when an account is ready to talk. And we can train AI models on clean, rich, current data, not a static snapshot from last quarter or last year. This is the difference between organizations that get results from AI and organizations that don't. The tools are the same, but the data underneath is not. Jeremy, I think it's time that we see it in action. Talk to us about a couple of clients.
Thanks, Dan. So next, guys, I just want to walk you through two very brief case studies. The first of which that we'll look at is a UK membership organization with around 20 plus years of contact data that's been built up through mergers, through manual inputs, with no consistent input protocols. So there was no universally agreed upon definition of what a member was versus a contact versus a lapsed member. There were the same individuals appearing multiple times under multiple different emails, and lapsed members receiving active member communications with no suppression logic in place to prevent this from happening. Before we touched a single automation, we did 4 things: a full database audit with record by record quality scoring, deduplication across all contact sources. We built a data taxonomy and agreed definitions for member types, engagement tiers, and suppression rules. Then we added in a governance framework: ownership, data entry, standardization, and strategically placed mandatory fields. In terms of results, the customer achieved a 40% reduction in database size just simply through deduplication. And for the first time ever, they found themselves able to effectively segment by membership tier with 100% suppression accuracy, 0 lapsed members in active journeys. And the last point sounds like a really small win, but it really isn't. Every lapsed member in an active journey is a deliverability risk or a brand risk for any organization, usually both. The second case study we wanted to take a look at is a global SaaS research-based business over in Ireland. So they were suffering with severe operational inefficiencies as their client onboarding required manual CRM updates for every new client that they brought through. So if you imagine the volume at which a typical SaaS-based business is going to be onboarding customers, having to do that manually every time is a significant burden operationally. It required manual weekly reporting, manual exports, manual reformatting, and then a manual send every single week. Sales also had no visibility of product usage data before client calls. So it was costing them roughly 15 hours per week of avoidable manual process for each member of the team. So one of the first things that we did was we integrated their product usage data to HubSpot in a live sync, not exported, in real time. We built an automated onboarding sequence, which was triggered by deal stage changes, and implemented renewal workflows based on product engagement signals. So this enabled self-running weekly reports with 0 manual intervention, saving time, effort, and operational stress for the team as well. Upon completion and post-testing, there was a marked 70% reduction in time spent on manual processes, 15 hours per week per head returned to that team. So they've now found themselves at stage 4, which is data ready for AI as the natural next conversation, as opposed to it being a desperate fix. So what we've seen is 2 very different organizations with 2 very different operating models, but ultimately pushing off the same foundational work of making sure that the data that they were accessing and the data that they were therefore using as triggers and as their reporting points were absolutely right, were bang on and in place. And the sequence will never change. Centralize it, govern it, and then build on it. Now, what does this look like when we get this right at scale? So I'm really delighted to introduce Jihe Chang from Compare the Market. So Jihe is a senior manager of data planning and performance. And the campaign she's going to walk us through is one you may all know. We're going to look at how they made AutoSergei Real with Meer-tech, which won multiple DMA Gold Awards in 2025. AutoSergei is one of the most recognizable brand characters in UK advertising. And bringing him to life with AI looks like a technology story from the outside. But what Jihe is going to tell you, it is actually a data story. Jihe, this is all yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for the intro. Today, I will walk through how we transformed our data, our customer journeys, and ultimately our brand experiences by bringing our character AutoSergei to life. And importantly, this isn't just a story about AI. is really a story about how getting your data foundation right that will unlock everything else. Compare the Market has always been built around one core promise, simples. For over a decade, that idea defined how customers experience our brand. But over time, we started asking ourselves a very difficult question. In a world where technology is moving fast and expectations are rising, is comparing insurance and money products still truly simple? Customer expectations were evolving rapidly. People have less time than ever. And around 1/3 of customers say comparing prices feels very complicated and time-consuming. And at the same time, the rise of AI tools and LLMs is redefining the convenience. Customers are becoming used to things happening instantly and getting answers effortlessly. So we had to rethink what simples mean in the age of AI. When we looked internally, we realized the challenge wasn't just external. We also had an internal disconnect. Compare the Market actually operated in two separate worlds. One was our advertising world, emotional, entertaining, built around the Meer-tech. The other was our customer communications world, where it was a lot more functional, transactional, and very operational as well. Customers loved the brand, but that experience itself didn't feel connected to the brand. So essentially two worlds, emotional advertising, yet functional customer journeys. But this gap actually created an opportunity for us. What if we could bring those worlds together? What if the personality customers really love in our advertising could also guide them through the experience? That's where our AutoSergei came in. In a world where AI assistants are increasingly anonymous and generic, we had something very unique to us, a character customers already know and trust. AutoSergei could become like a human feeling guide in an increasingly anonymous digital world. So our mission became very simple, making AutoSergei real. And to make him real, we needed to give him two things, a brain, so that intelligence powered by data and automation, and a heart, communication that feels human, relevant, and emotionally aware. We started with the brain because meaningful AI always starts with data readiness. As Compare the Market faced many same problems as the most company faces, there was no single view of customers, customer information was fragmented and hard to reach. And due to the nature of our business, our quote data was quite messy as well. The first step was to simplify our data foundation. We rebuilt how we understand customers through three key components. First one was a simplified customer data platform, where we can truly understand customers' behavior on our website, their quoting and converting patterns, moving from 50 million abstract context into 38 million real customers who we know that they've engaged with us in the last 3 years. Then we built an actionable customer view, where we now have reduced down to 350 useful data attributes that goes into our campaigns for personalization, decisioning, and many more. And finally, the customer diary, where we predict when the key renewal moments are, which quotes are the winning ones that will lead to conversion. This new foundation unlocked intelligence at scale. We could now deliver 120 million personalized pricing recommendations across 25 million customers. AutoSergei could identify exactly who to talk to, when to talk to them, and what price or offer to recommend to them. At this point, he had intelligence, so he had IQ. But intelligence alone wasn't enough. We knew what to say to customers, but we didn't yet know how to say it in the best way. And that's where emotional intelligence comes in. Because even in something as rational as insurance or money products, emotion plays a huge role in decision making. So the next step was giving AutoSergei a heart. We built an AI-driven optimization engine that constantly learns from customers' behavior. It adapts messaging in real time based on how customers actually respond to our communications, which means that the experience gets smarter with every interaction and every touch points. This engine uses a combination of AI technique, natural language generation, deep learning, dynamic optimization, but all governed by human oversight and compliance approval, because at the end of the day, Compared to Market is an FCA-regulated company. So the results is an always-on system that constantly learns and evolves how to communicate better with our customers. We didn't just create a whole bunch of AI variants. We tagged all content to different human emotions and allowed the language to pick the best emotion based on real customers' feedback loop. And through this testing, we discovered that tone matters enormously. Sometimes urgency drives action, sometimes appreciation works better with the customers, other times curiosity or excitement resonates more. And by testing different emotional tones at different stages of their journey, AutoSergei could learn how to guide customers more effectively. And when you combine the brain and the heart, something powerful happens. The brand world and the experience world finally come together. Customers experience one unified, emotionally intelligent journey. So from an automated email mechanics with limited accuracy to fully intelligent and emotionally intelligent omnichannel touchpoints. At this point, AutoSergei stops feeling like a marketing idea and feels like a real assistant to us. One that continuously learn what customers need and how best to communicate with them. And every brand dreams of achieving the Holy Grail: increase revenue, reduce cost, and improve customer experiences. But rarely do all three come together. For Compare the Market, our challenge was clear. In a world where a third of people thinking comparing is just too much an effort, we were in a fight for hyper-convenience. So in 9 months, we set out to transform from brand-led business into an experience-led one. And this time, we achieved all three: growth, efficiency, and experience. Ultimately, this wasn't just a marketing transformation, it was actually a business transformation. In 9 months, we didn't just grow, we shifted where the growth comes from. CRM revenue contribution increased by 55%. We reduced communication by 25%, which means that customers were receiving fewer but more relevant messages. And operational efficiency, we've improved by 64%. Over the past decade, Compare the Market evolved from strong brand into something more, and this time an experience-led business where brand, data, and customer engagement works together. So in a time where everyone is racing to figure out how to use AI, this is what it looks like. We didn't just use AI to generate video or an image, and we didn't just throw our data set at a model and say, you tell us what to do. We used AI with people to uncover the right opportunities, to find the right language, and to bring that emotional intelligence our customers already love to every interaction. It was AI that elevated us. The technology made it possible, but it was human creativity that made it really, really powerful. As I mentioned, we rebuilt our data foundations from the ground up in just 9 months, creating a simplified, reliable platform that the automation and AI could actually run on. Without the foundation, none of the intelligence we built would have been possible. At the same time, we transformed the role of our brand. For the first time, the meerkats weren't just advertising character, they became part of the actual service experience. And the journey isn't finished yet. What we've built is the foundation for the next phase of customer experience, deeper personalization, real-time orchestration, and a platform that will continue evolving as customer expectations rise. But the real test of this transformation wasn't technology. It was how customers reacted. Did they actually feel the difference? And the answer was yes. Customers started mentioning AutoSergei in their reviews. We saw over 100,000 Trustpilot reviews with 4.9 star ratings. Some even said, "Thank you, AutoSergei." That's when we knew we hadn't just improved marketing, we had created a real customer experience.
Simples. Hey, that's my line.
So if there is one takeaway from this story, it's this. Automation, AI, personalization don't start with technology. They start with data readiness. Once that foundation is in place, you can unlock intelligence, emotional engagement, and truly meaningful customer experiences. And that's how we made AutoSergei real. Thank you.
So yeah, thank you so much. That is exactly the kind of story that makes everything that we've talked about today completely concrete. So for everyone else, there's 3 things that we'd like to leave you with today. First of which, the data problem is a solvable one. It will never be glamorous. It doesn't have a shiny product page, and it rarely gets the attention that it needs in the boardroom. But it determines whether every other investment that you've made into systems, into data, actually delivers. Clean data isn't a nice to have, it is the foundation. Second, most organizations are closer to the beginning end of this journey than most of them would think. Run those 5 diagnostic questions honestly, not optimistically. The gap between perceived maturity and real maturity is usually quite significant. That's not a criticism, it is just an opportunity for you to take control of data and then therefore the customer experience that you're then able to create off the back. Third is that the sequence matters. You cannot skip steps. Clean the data, connected systems second, reliable automation third, and then AI. As the natural next chapter, not as a desperate fix. Jihe and the team didn't skip steps. Our clients didn't skip steps. And the organizations getting real results from AI didn't skip the unglamorous work first. One action from today: run the audit, pull the report, and find out what you're actually working with. That single step will be the key to unlocking everything else. Back to you, Dan.
Nice. Thank you. And thank you to the whole team. Jihe, Jeremy, Mari, brilliant session from everybody. I believe we have a few questions in the chat. So Mari's actually going to pull a couple of these now and we can go through them.
Cool, thank you. So one we've got is, how is HubSpot compared to other email providers such as Digital and Klaviyo when it comes to email automation? Jeremy, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. So how is HubSpot compared to platforms like Klaviyo.digital? So I think the first thing that I would mention is, if we think about the steps that we looked at with our framework, what HubSpot offers that other point solutions don't is that it's a connected platform by default, as opposed to that point solution. So as such, this will operate off a much richer data set than something like your kind of external email platform like that. So then that will allow you to have more granular segmentation and then therefore create a better customer experience in the messaging that you're delivering. So it would also allow you to make email marketing essentially a cog in a much larger nurturing engine and customer experience engine, as opposed to being this channel that you then have to manage independently. So Final point would be that the engagement that you then garner from those campaigns that you're running will then naturally feed back in and re-enrich those records to allow you to continue that enhanced customer experience. So it's a great question. Great question.
Cool. Dan, I think this is one for you. How do you get leadership buy-in to invest in data quality?
I think this is one that I'll give my perspective on, but it'd be interesting to get Jihei's perspective as well, because you've had to live and breathe this, right? When I'm talking to leaders on any given day, we're definitely seeing an element of, honestly, exhaustion from all of this, like AI, this, and you need to get AI for your AI, and nobody really knows what they're supposed to be doing. So when I speak with leaders and have an honest conversation with them, saying, okay, well, what if we just took a step back and just got your foundations in place? Imagine being able to pull a dashboard and understand what's happening in your business and start off with a solid foundation, and then we look at AI. I think that sensible approach is actually being welcomed well by any CEO, CRO that I'm speaking with, because they're kind of like, okay, breath of fresh air. We're not going in with the next AI widget that's going to change their life. We're actually saying, okay, well, let's go and do something that's actionable, tangible, that we'll see results and set solid foundations for whatever we want to do in the future then there afterwards. So honestly, to answer your question, I think just be real, right? Go back to basics and say, right, well, let's get solid foundations. That will be a breath of fresh air to most leaders you speak to. Jihei, I don't know if that's your experience or not.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd like to add that competitor market is very much full for AI and also like data readiness. So how we kind of approached this was that we created a lot of different business case and stakeholder interviews to understand what is actually needed and what's not needed as well. So that we can actually create that actionable customer view and the layer. So it's always communicating back to the leadership around what this is going to support in terms of, at the end of the day, we have to generate our revenues as well. So how is this particular work stream going to add up to that revenue generation, but also understanding different stages and business casing that out to properly give the leadership a walkthrough to this data readiness stage.
Yeah, that's cool. Someone wants to know, where do you start if your data is in a really bad state? Who wants to take this?
I'm happy to take a go at this. It's always the big challenge, right? It's like, where do I start? And when you think about it, you get a headache and would rather do anything else other than get your data into play. Honestly, I would reiterate what I mentioned earlier. Start with understanding your current state of play. Source map what different systems you have, understand what data that's in there. It's actually not that complex to do, right? It's literally sit down with a really large mug of coffee, a cauldron of it if you can find it, and get out a Miro board or whatever your favorite diagramming tool is and stick all of your different systems on one page. Then understand what's the critical data points that you need to get out of them. What's the other data points that are living in there that maybe shouldn't live in there? And start by understanding, okay, well, how can we create that single source of truth? How can we centralize it into one system? Doesn't matter what system that is, but just once you can find one system source of record, then you have solid foundations to build on. I think that's the only place that you can start. Everywhere else that you start in terms of running it through the next widget or tool that's after coming out, trust me, I'm just as bad. Any of these new shiny tools come out, I'm the first one to subscribe, but they rarely pay dividend. It's always the going back to basics, sitting down with an architect or yourself or whoever you need to just understand what your business looks like from a data flow perspective. That's where it all begins.
Yeah, cool. I don't mind answering this one. So does this apply at smaller organizations or is it mainly an enterprise problem? The principles apply at every scale, but the starting point is different, right? Smaller organizations often have an advantage, like less historical mess, fewer systems, faster to progress. The risk in smaller teams is dependency. One person holds all of the data knowledge in their head, which is just detrimental. The fix there is the same as Enterprise. Write it down, do everything that Dan just said, document the definitions, the standards, the ownership, and that's governance regardless of your size.
Just to add to that as well, I think it depends. Depending on where you are in your data readiness journey, if you are a smaller business that is about to start going into scale, or even if kind of entering a hypergrowth phase, what you'll find is that if you don't get the foundations in early, as a smaller business, you're able to be a little bit more agile. You can make decisions a lot more quickly, and you can actually get on top of these things. Whereas if we don't address it while we're at that stage, before we go into hypergrowth, we start trying to scale quite rapidly, or we scale out a sales team, or suddenly we build a marketing team and we're suddenly pumping CRMs full of data. If we don't get that governance in, the issue compounds at such an astonishing rate for businesses that are making that jump to be a larger entity or a larger enterprise, right? So it becomes going back to your 110-100 rule. The issue compounds at such a rate that by the time you get to that point, if we haven't got it in place, it's going to be a much bigger issue to fix, a much more cumbersome challenge to solve as a business. So it's definitely, I think it's important for everyone wherever they are on the journey. But if you are on the smaller end of that scale, do leverage the opportunity to invest now to save yourself significantly more cash pounds and ROI further down the line.
Yeah.
You also have that thing where every new hire you bring in brings a new tool with them, and then all of a sudden you have this like spaghetti junction of mess after you're a couple of years in, where you've 3 CRMs, 3 marketing automation platforms, 3 reporting tools, and that's definitely something you want to avoid.
Yeah. We'll do a couple more. I think, and one for Jeremy again. What tools do you recommend for data quality beyond HubSpot?
Ooh, you may actually have pointed this one in the wrong direction. So naturally, we will for the work that we do in a meaningful fashion, we will normally default towards HubSpot, right? But there are a number of data enrichment tools that are available in the market. Some of them are more AI driven, some of them are more kind of repository driven. I think on the AI side of it, of course, I guess should probably stipulate that we are not, or disclaimer, we are not affiliated with any brands that we may or may not mention, or any alternatives are available. But ones that we see coming up in the AI space, ones that we see coming up very commonly are platforms like Clay. Obviously, there are a lot of legacy players on the other side of the coin, which are more that kind of repository led. So your kind of Cognisms and those sorts of platforms. Ultimately, it's going to come down to what works best for your business. So investigate a few and have a look. But I think if we are moving towards that connected platforms, AI-driven space, and being able to really enable salespeople to operate at scale, get access to accurate data quickly, you probably do want to be looking more in that AI camp. So your tools like your Clays and as I say, alternative providers are available. That's just one of the ones that we're seeing most commonly in the market right now.
Nice.
I think, again, Jihei, sorry to throw you under the bus, but you are the non-biased opinion in this room, and you've walked and talked it. Curious to see what you're seeing, what's hot in the data world that you're living.
So from competitor market wise, we use multiple sources and tools. And one that we currently use for our campaign activations, where our data feeds into, is called Braze. So that's another tool that you guys can explore. But also we don't just use Braze, we use different CDP tool, we use different cloud system to manage our data. So there are a lot more out there that might be suitable for different size of organizations. So it's good to kind of go out there and talk to different providers to find out what is the relevant and needs that you can fulfill with.
Yeah. I think it starts with the strategy though, right? It's always, and I always pull it back to, it's like, okay, well, there's a million tools for a million different use cases, and they all will tell you that they'll change your lives, etc. But it really does come back with that thoughtfulness that you clearly, sat down and put quite a lot of time into saying, okay, well, how can we make this strategy effective? So yeah, by all means, explore all of the tools. They're amazing, but make sure you're doing it in a strategic manner, I think.
Yeah. No, it's good answers, guys. Good answers. Jihei, there is one for you. What's the single biggest data readiness lesson from the AutoSergei project?
I'm muting myself. So having that foundation ready. So it took us just 9 months because we had that Agile Mission working group. But in order to actually build on top of data foundation, we had to work really closely with multiple stakeholders, multiple tool providers to make sure that we have everything in one place, as Dan said earlier. So my key takeaway is start with auditing, understanding where your landscape is, and then on top of that, build your own versions of data and AI.
Cool. Nice.
Good stuff. Well, guys, I think that's just about all we have time for today. Appreciate people have given us a good amount of time and a good amount of attention. So thanks very much, everyone, for attending. If your question didn't get answered, drop it in the chat now, and we'll make sure that we follow up with you directly. 2 things before we close. First, we're offering a complimentary data readiness audit. It's a structured assessment of where you are and your 3 highest impact actions. No sales pitch, just an honest look at where to start and where to begin thinking about this, and how you might tackle your own journey. Second, we'll send a follow-up to everyone registered with the slide deck, the recording, and supporting resources, so watch out for that in your inbox. The webinar will be uploaded to the DMA website within 1 working day, as well as all viewers receiving an email with the webinar link, so viewers will be able to share the link or rewatch the webinar at any point of your choice. So, final things. Thank you to the Data and Marketing Association for hosting this with us, and a massive thank you to Jihe for Compare the Market. Brilliant example, brilliantly told, very engaging. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone else, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.